Hi friends, it's me. Hi. So I apologize, Facebook Live isn't working out. I don't have good enough internet access in my basement to make it work. I've been trying now for quite a few months and it's just an unreliable experience. The goal eventually is to move my dye studio home. Now that we've moved out of our old house, I'd like to try to move my dye studio into the old house that we lived in, but it's going to require some work and I don't know how long it's going to take. So until that gets figured out, I think we're going to have to do something other than live events because it's just too difficult to make them work. So I am recording the demo that I had set up for today. What is this, July the 2nd? Yep, this is Wednesday, July 2nd. I am doing the demo that I had set up for today, and we will move forward from there. So what I decided to do today, since it is summer vacation and the kids are home and my studio time has been real flaky. I never know week to week what I'm going to do, but this week I had a little time. I got some warps ready. These are 6-yard warps. 2 of them are 8-2 tencel and 2 of them are 5-2 tencel. And I went through my refrigerator, which has just a huge assortment of old dyes that I've used for various colorways and projects, and I never throw anything away. So it was getting really loaded with all these little dyes. And I took them and I mixed them into 4 different paints that I'm going to use on this yarn. So I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. So these dyes, some of them are old, some of them are newer. I just kind of threw them all into these 4 massive jars, and we will see what comes of it. There will be something that's akin to it, maybe a yellow or orange, a pink or red, some sort of a blue, and some sort of a purple. So we're going to just try it out on these warps, and then if all goes well and things look good, I will put these into the limited run collection in my shop, which subscribers to my newsletter can find things that I don't put into my shop on a regular basis. They can find some of those specialty things there. So yeah, I just, like I said, I don't like to waste things. So this is a really good way. You can always just blend all your colors together to come up with something new. Oh, well, that's why this lid was weird. It had two lids stuck to it. I like to use ball jars in my studio. They can be a little heavy, but then they're reusable, they're glass, they don't react to anything. The lids get a little funky and wonky after a while, though, and you got to replace those regularly. Let's see. I know I'm a little bit off screen right now. Oh dear, I spilled. That's why I put... I probably should have shook this pink up a little bit. Let me shake that up real bit. Sorry, this is all off camera. My camera's a little out of reach, so there's some really old dye in this one, so I'm gonna give it a good shake. There we go. You'll just have to listen to my voice as I narrate what's happening a little bit off camera right now. I got the pink here. Oh, and I spilled it again. That's why I put towels and sheets down. They soak up all that mess. Because I am a messy person. There's a lot of paint here. There's a good chance I'm going to also do some skeins with it if it looks good. It might end up looking a little bit like my Indiana Sunset colorway because I had a lot of random tidbits of Indiana Sunset left. When I paint my colorways, I like to use fresh dye, and then if I have leftovers, I keep them aside either to do some sort of a cocktail color with, or lately I haven't had enough skeins in the studio to do cocktail colors, so they were starting to add up. So we're just going to use them for wart painting. Why not? All right, let's see here. All right, I'm moving it on screen now. So here's we'll put the blue here, the purple here, pink, and whatever this orange, red, yellow is We'll find out once I get it on the yarn, and then we'll find out even more once I wash it out and we see what it finally becomes. So it's probably going to take more dye than this, but we'll start with this. I am just gonna, I've got these warps laid out in an accordion. So these have all been pre-soaked in soda ash water. I just folded them back and forth on themselves and laid them kind of flat. The trick with laying your warps like this is making sure that the dye gets all the way through to the bottom. Because what will happen a lot of times is you'll pour all this dye down, it'll look really good on this side. The other side won't have as much dye penetration as the top side. So you'll have to kind of open up the yarn and work it in there really good and make sure that you're getting the dye all the way through the yarn. So might need to open that up just a little bit. Make sure when I pour the dye that it's not too stacked up on itself there. There we go. Yarn's a little slippery. It's got all that soda soak on it. Soda soak is like soap. All right, we'll start with the pink. It's right here. Pour it right down the middle. Maybe what I'll do, just to make it easier on myself, is start with lines so I can figure out where exactly I want to place color, and then I'll blend them together. Just that one stripe right there, I already used up that cup. I probably should have some bigger cups out, but this is what I got right now. I'll just keep refilling them as I go. I really like these cups because they have these tri-pour spouts, and the dye pours really nicely in the line that you want to pour it in. So I'll put this, oh, I spilled a little, that's okay. So I'm moving some of the yarn aside to make sure that it's pouring all the way through the bottom. Oh, I am messy today. I think I'm still a little bit perturbed by the Facebook Live, and also maybe I had too much coffee today. So I'm a little sloppy, but that's okay. We'll blend it all together here in a minute. All right. At this point, you could push it through with a brayer just to make sure it's getting all the way through there. All right, so we got like a nice dark looking purple. We've got a reddish pinkish color. Be interesting to see how that washes out. So this is the edge that's folded over. So the trick with the edge, I got a little bit of purple on my glove. The trick with the edge is making sure that it gets all the way through on the fold. That's a pretty color. Ooh, I'm excited for that color. It's like one of my favorites, aquamarine and teal and turquoise. Those are some of my favorite. I love blue-green. That leans a little bit more blue than green, than yellow, I guess. All right, oh, missed a little there. Smash it in. With this method, sometimes I find it's also just easier to squish it with your gloves. Make sure it's getting all the way through that folded edge. Yep. Oh, goodness gracious, I'm just making messes left and right. Some days are like that. That's why I put towels and sheets all over. Maybe I can do that a little bit there. And then for my fourth color, I'll go ahead and refill this. So I'll need that again here in a minute. Oh yeah, I should have plenty of this dye left over that I maybe can paint some skeins with the same 4 colors here soon. And I think I have some skeins waiting for me in the soda soak, so I'll do that next. Let's see what color I made here. You know, I have no idea how that's going to wash out. It's very kind of golden, morassy colored, a little bit brown looking. I think I might have used a cocktail color in it. So who knows? Again, a cocktail color is just when I'm done painting one of my colorways, like fall maples or I don't know, mystic wisteria, any of those colorways that I paint on a regular basis. Sometimes I have leftover paints, and I'll just take whatever's left over and pour them all into a jar and mix them together. And on occasion, if I have extra skeins lying around, I will use those and dye a cocktail color. This one, I just went ahead and poured into this dye because I never used it on skeins. I poured it into this paint. Along with who knows what else. I just poured all sorts of stuff that was in my fridge together. How's this looking? Am I getting good? Looks like I'm getting pretty good dye penetration there, yep. So it's just a matter of making sure it gets all the way through to the bottom. All right. Let's get some more paints, and I'm going to start blending these colors together because I like colors that blend together in a nice transition. Despite how messy this looks, I think I can still pull it off. So what I'm going to do is pour both colors here. That got a little messy, but that's okay. And I'm going to push them into each other. Didn't quite blend as much as I was hoping. It looks like it kind of made a bit of a line in the color there. So what I might even do, grab another cup here. So just to make sure those really blend together, I'm gonna make an in-between color for them and make sure they really go together. I am way oversaturating this yarn. That's okay. I have a tendency to do that because I really want to make sure that I get the color all the way through. And I know some people like to put newspaper underneath their yarn so that when the dye pools, it has a way to soak it up. But I find that if I use plastic, it keeps the dye up into the yarn really nicely. It makes sure that it gets all the way through on both sides. You can always use a towel to clean up after yourself. So I'm pretty much done with that yellow, orange, whatever it is. All right, let me rinse my gloves off real quick. They're getting kind of messy. All right. So that's blended. Now I have this cup of, uh-oh. Which one was it? I think that's my blended color there. You know what, I'm not sure. I'll just put that over there and start a new cup. When I'm done, maybe I'll pour that tidbit back into the red, and the red will be just a little more orange than it was before. That's fine. But I'll wait until I'm done. There we go. I got some more purple, some more red. And then I'm going to just do like I did before. This time maybe I'll just squish. Because squishing is a perfectly good method too. Though I do feel like I get more of a blend when I use a brayer. This is just a brayer like you would get for printmaking. I sell these in my shop. But if you happen to have ever gotten into the craft of printmaking, then you probably already have one somewhere. And it works really well for this. I find the squishing helps to get the colors all the way down to the bottom, and then the brayer does a nice job pushing them back and forth so you can blend them together. I do the best I can to get color saturation all the way through so there's no white spots. White spots aren't a bad thing, it's just not my preference. This is going to be very, very saturated. But I don't even know, some of these dyes might be old and it might need to be extra saturated. They might be getting kind of weak. It's hard telling. All right, let's get rid of that. And I'm just going to I had this weird mix of the yellow, orange and the red, and I'm just going to pour it right into the red. I don't care. It's good. All right, a little more purple, and we'll blend the purple and the blue together. This really does look, this whole end right here looks so much like my Indiana sunset. This blue is going to be very different though. All right, here we go. Squish, 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 squish. Too much. Let's do some blending. I'm okay if the blue, it takes up a little bit less space than the purple because the blue is on the fold, and so that fold is going to have a longer run of color than it looks, if that makes sense. I try to make it so the colors all kind of move across the warp evenly, and I don't always get it right, especially when it's folded like this, but I find typically if you do a little bit shorter on the edge, so this looks like this is a long run of purple and a short run of blue, but this blue, when you unfold it, will be longer than it looks. So, and there we have it. Clean it up. Move this aside. What do you think? Is this going to be a good one? No idea. We'll see. All right, now I just got to figure out, rolling it up and putting it away. And for this one, I'm just going to, I've got it taped down on a square piece of plastic. I think I'm literally just going to roll it up. This piece of plastic is just cut from one of those large drop cloths. I like this somewhere like about 1 mil plastic, not too thin that when you tape it down, the tape tears the plastic, but not so thick that when you roll it up, the plastic is so rigid that it actually pushes the die really hard, if that makes sense. All right, let's see here. Just go roll it up. And it'll give you a chance to see the other side too. Yeah, see there's a couple spots in there that are a little bit under-dyed. But I think it'll be okay. This is squishing out a little extra dye on each end, so I'm going to soak it up with towels. Whoa! we put this on a tray. I have lunch trays that are really handy for moving wet monkey stuff about. It's a little bit long for it. It's a little long. Maybe should have gotten a slightly bigger piece of plastic. Just do the best we can. Fold it up a little bit. There we go. And put another piece of plastic over it because I put just a few too many warps on there for the piece of plastic that I had. And I want to keep it from drying out at all. There we go. Yep, I think if I continue to do this method, I need to cut bigger sheets of plastic. And maybe I need to be a little bit more conservative about how much dye I'm pouring down onto the yarn because it was really full. But I will set that aside, and perhaps I will set up so that I can paint some skeins as well. Since this is a recording, I can just stop and set up again. All right, I am going to paint a set of skeins. These are cotton skeins that have been soaking in the soda solution for a while, and they are ready to paint. And I'm going to take these 4 colors that I have painted on the warps, if I can speak today, and I'm going to paint it into 4 quadrants. So I'm going to go ahead and mark those 4 quadrants so I know what I'm working with. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then I'll work them out from there. And it just helps me if I like to try to make the colors go across the skein evenly, so it helps me to know where to place the color. And then I go a little wider, and then I work on blending them together. I'm going to push it out and across, making sure it's getting all the way through to the bottom side. Oh, splash. Some days are really good painting days, and then some days I just make a big old mess, and that's okay. I gotta say, this is the towel I've been wiping off stuff with, and it's looking really pretty, so I'm excited to see how these turn out. So the circumference of a skein makes it so that the yarn that's sitting on the outside and the yarn that's sitting on the inside, this tends to get squished and this tends to get stretched. And if I want to try to make these blocks kind of even in size, I find it helps if I actually flatten out the side that I'm working on. All right. And then making sure it's getting all the way through to the bottom of that skein. The cotton works a little bit differently than the tencel. The warps were made of tencel. The cotton will absorb the dye a little more quickly, the dye particles. And so you don't want to let them, if you want to spread them out, you don't want them to sit on the yarn for very long because they won't spread very well. And it also, if you don't make sure that you scooch this open and pour down underneath, it probably won't make it to the bottom of the cotton. So the cotton on top will catch all the color. All right. Straighten this. Move this out of the way. So I have seem to be knocking a lot of things over today. So, all right. Push that out. By pouring that dye on the, opening this up and pouring the dye down below, I find when I go to use the brayer, then I'm pushing dye particles on the top and the bottom of the skein, so it tends to penetrate a little bit more easily than if you just pour it down from the top and try to push it through to the bottom. I didn't do a very good job taping this plastic down, did I? I just used painter's tape to tape this down. I try to reuse this plastic as long as I can. I need a new towel. I'm making so many messes. I need more towels today. I'm going to set this here. All right. And the purple. I do wonder sometimes if using the newspaper would help pull that dye down farther and make less of a mess. I don't know. I've only ever used plastic. I've seen some dyers use newspaper underneath, and then maybe it wouldn't pool so much. Maybe I'll have to try that one day. There we go. I think maybe I was getting a little too frantic with the warps. I know that I like to work slow. When I try to speed up too much, that's when I knock things over and make messes. I like to work slow and steady. All right. Wipe my gloves off a little bit. And let's get to blending some colors together. So let's start, let me refill this blue. I don't think I'm going to have time to paint tencel yarn today before I have to go pick up my kiddos, but I might set this all these extra paints aside and paint some more of this colorway, because it's looking like it's going to be a really nice one. And I can paint it on some more yarn later. There we go. If I wanted to make this easier on myself, I probably would just pour these two colors into a tertiary cup. I'm trying to save time. Just pour it directly on the yarn and blend it. But you could potentially blend those two colors together, but then you'll have this middle color that you'll have left over. Interesting. So on the warp, I had it folded in an accordion, so the color is transposed. So it would go from this gold to this blue and then back to this gold again. So these two colors don't touch on the warps, and they do on these skeins. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out, which one I like better. I'm not sure. Maybe I try painting some skeins where I transpose the color on the skeins as well, or maybe I find I really like this green in there, and it's could end up being really nice. We'll see. We'll wash these out and I'll post online the final results and we'll see what we see. Oh, I had a little bit of that yellow left on my fingers. That's okay. Ooh, making messes. Bring it in. Bring it in. There we go. I'm getting really used to using the brayer. I used to do a lot more squishing, and squishing works really well. Whoop. And it's really easy with the brayer to cause dye to go flying all over the place. But I like the way it blends. I'm really working to bring these colors together. Okay, I think I'm done with the blue. Put that aside before I do something silly and knock it over. Let's get some more pink. I run these demos sometimes as reels on Facebook and Instagram, and I speed them up by a great deal. I think it might be kind of surprising when you watch me do it in real time just how much slower it is. Let's try not to add quite as much dye this time. I've been overdoing it a bit. There we go. Can always add more. When you add too much, it tends to get real messy. But you can deal with messy. I can deal with messy. This purple and pink blended together will be really nice, won't they? Things look like they're going through pretty good. All right, we're done with purple. I'm really glad I mixed up a lot of these colors. I think this is going to be really nice. Actually, I think I might end up really liking it in this order rather than transpose, but I'm not sure. Which is better? I don't know. We'll find out. I shouldn't make any judgment calls yet because I still got to wash it out. And washing it out sometimes changes the results. You can't really judge your colors based on their wet dye results. How they absorb, how they react to the soda ash, how they wash out, can really change the way they look. So, no judgment calls yet, but I'm hopeful. This is looking really nice. It's a really good way to use up a whole bunch of leftover odds and ends in my fridge because I cannot throw away dye, no matter what I do, even if it's just the tiniest amount. The only problem with doing that is some of these dyes are really super old, so I don't even know how effective they are. So again, what you see here may not be what we get in the end, because if a dye is really old and already somewhat exhausted, it might wash out a lot more. And I blended so many different colors together, who knows how it'll turn out. But I'm really hopeful, because this is looking really nice. All right. This is what I should have done with the warps. I moved a little bit too quickly for my liking on the warps, and I made it a little bit messier than I like. And I should just take my time, as I am wont to do, as I like to do. So I always do a better job when I work slowly and methodically. Cleaning up. And then I'm just going to fold this plastic over, put it on a tray. And this week I will be in my studio a little bit more than I have been this summer, so I'll have a chance to actually come in and wash this out, which will be quite nice. These are the zip ties I use on my skeins. I'm going to go ahead and put them back in, because if I don't do it now, I will forget to do it later. It's the only reason I'm doing this right now. You don't need a zip tie for it to sit here. Later on when I go to wash it, I'm going to forget to put them in, and then they'll get kind of messy. So if I do it now, I can't forget to do it later. These are the reusable zip ties I use in my studio, so I can take them off, I can put them back on. They'll survive boiling water for a while. Eventually, they'll get a little bit worn out and they won't close anymore. But I can get them to work for a pretty good amount of time. I don't know how many washes they last through, but it seems like they last quite a few washes. There we go. All right. Again, this plastic might have been just a little small. There we go. Gives you a chance to see the underside. See if the dye got through all the way. Oh boy. Oh, I dropped it. All right, well, I'm going to finish wrapping this up because I let go of the plastic. I need to cut my plastic a little bit bigger. So maybe what I'll do is actually just set it in a container and put the plastic over it. That works too. Let's do that. It's too complicated. There we go. Oh. Yeah, it'll be fine. There we go. Should have used a lunch tray instead of this little tray. That's okay. I'll rinse this piece of plastic out. I'll wrap it up with the plastic on top, and then I will wash it out and I will post the results once they're ready. So thank you for hanging out with this really long demo, and I look forward to seeing how this comes out. And thank you for sticking with me. I know Facebook Live has been really frustrating, at least it has been for me, and I know many of you are really interested in watching live demos with me. I just can't seem to get it to work. I am not technologically savvy, and I will have to come up with something else in the meantime, or I don't know, find another source of internet if I can. But also, eventually I will be moving home. Go ahead and move this onto a bigger tray. And my home internet is actually quite stable, so we'll look forward to having my home space and everything closer to home that it makes it easier for me to access and work on. And it might be easier for me to do these demos live with you. So take care.